Oh, hiya, hiya. Well, this is an appropriate day. I'm sitting in Fort Lauderdale, and I'm on the porch, and I have a bird here who's on the perch. So as I'm sitting in the backyard, and we have we just opened up Florida a little bit for people to go out now with the pandemic. So as I'm in the backyard, we have the largest property on the whole grounds. And so who's going to come here but the kids? And they're going to from all the other houses going to come here and play. And so what's today? Today's that day that you have the children are in the yard.
How about that?
And there's the golf course, which nobody's playing golf. Parents are all over here squirting the kids. They better play with them. The kids are tired of the lockdown, and now this is the first week that we've actually been able to go outside and do something. And the kids are being kids. Now, my friend Chester Pipkin is very much used to this, and it's ironic because Chester is he's a lot of things, but where I left off with him years ago was in a ministry after he became not a reverend, but he became a pastor. I called him reverend, and he slapped me down. But so Chester has a church, and not that it's a church of Chester. We'll get into that in a minute, but I want to explain that he's used to this. He's used to family picnics because when I left off with him, I had a house. This is when I was living large. I lived in Palos Verdes, and Chester brought the people from the campus, which was the old Pepperdine campus in South LA. And South Central is a poor neighborhood. It's the Bronx of LA. Right. And and so and Pepperdine is in Malibu, so that's got like a big reputation. Pepperdine is a rich school. Yeah. So that campus, Chester put his eye on it and said, this would be a nice place to take care of people. And that was part of his vision. And I left off where he was sheltering people, feeding them, taking care of families, the homeless and the helpless, and women who were abused and whatever. He was putting them all together. So that was where I left off after he got out of the music business with me. Now, we're going to go back a bit, but I wanted to explain that where I left off is where he came to my house in Palos Verdes, which is a big estate, and I had an Olympic-sized pool, and Chester brought the members of the church. Yeah. And the children were playing very much like this, except most of them were of color. So you got that really white, organic neighborhood where nothing grows except prejudice. And in that neighborhood, right across the street, the guy who owns 1-800-Flowers with his 2 Rolls-Royce cars in the driveway. I mean, it was a very, very rich community. And I got all of these people who are moved from the wrong neighborhood, coming to the right place. And so the next day after this was over, they all were going another way from me because they were not wanting to have anybody disturb their very, very sacred, pristine lifestyles. Now, I know it's snobbish. It's not even racist. It's just stupid. But the fact of the matter is things have changed dramatically. That was years ago. Thank God they've changed, and that's the one I think. But he's the one I think. I want you to know that they're singing Happy Birthday now. Listen,
can the door shut over there a little bit so I can?
Yeah, it's a screen door. They're going to shut up in a minute. And now I want to get to Chester. All right. Now, Chester is a professional musician and arranger and conductor. Right. And an excellent music business man. But he gave all that up to take over this community. And that's where I want to begin with you doing the music. Let's go a little bit with the music. When you were young, where were you? Where are you from?
Well, it started really. Well, I've been in the music business since I was 2.5. I started playing in movies, tap dancing and stuff like that. But we'll skip that part. I played in about 18 movies. And anyway, from that point on, I got shipped to Pasadena, where my mother lived, and I started going to John Muir High School, and I wrote my first big hit, which was called Cindy, and it was a pretty big hit. And uh, then I went to Pasadena City College, and I was a music major there, and I did pretty good. And I started with another group called the Valiants, and we wrote. I wrote another hit, which is called "This Is the Night for Love," and it was pretty good. And then everything. There was a lot of things I was planning to do, but I had a couple guys who were my managers then for the whole group. One of the guys' name was Herbie Alpert, and and the other was Lou Adler. And Herbie, of course, is Herbie Alpert. You guys know who he is.
A&M Records.
Yeah, and Herbie. I mean, Lou was very successful too. Um,
And I think he had Dunhill Records. Isn't that it? Was that what it was called? Lou Adler? Liberty? Was it Liberty?
well, it doesn't work there, but really, Lou is still doing stuff. And
Okay.
he got his thing really big when he met a girl named Carole King.
Yeah.
You guys know who she is. She's a very strong writer. She's just written "Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow," and the Shirelles were the ones who did it, and so that went interesting, but they ended up kind of splitting. And instead of being our managers, they just each went off on their own thing. Because Herbie was interested in starting. He met a guy named uh, Jerry Moss, and he and Jerry started a record company called A&M Records. And so I'm telling you this because this kind of ties in together in the future. And so anyway, they started their record company, and they were in a building on Sunset Boulevard. Very very nice building. And
What A&M? That was the old Charlie Chaplin Studios.
yeah, and that's where we ended up moving, the same place,
Yeah.
which is very interesting. But you said, man, that's going to be a successful place. We need to move there too. And things opened up for us to do exactly that. And we did do pretty good at that time. But before that, there was a guy named Bumps Blackwell. Uh, Great name, huh? And he started a company with a man named Simon, and then this guy named Sam Cooke was the top singer in Christian music, and then or should I say gospel music. And he came out of that, and he decided he wanted to go into the world music. And so Bumps met him, and he had us right after we had done "The Night for Love." And there was also he had a deal with Little Richard, of all people. And Little Richard and us and Sam and us were the group. And so we started traveling around different places, and everything was going really good. Little Richard was really crazy. I mean, I remember one time we were at a it was a stadium really, and he tied some ropes up to the top ceiling, and from the second floor, he swung all the way down to the stage. Saying, "Wop, bubble, wop, wop, crowd went crazy."
and he landed on Pat Boone.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he landed. Yeah, then he had another thing he used to do. He had this thing he would squeeze. He'd hold the microphone, and he would squeeze, and it would spark. And then he'd fall out and act like he was out. And is there a doctor in the place? There's a doctor in the place. And so we were run up, and while he was laying there, he'd go, "Wop, baba, doo, bop, bop, bop." So it was really kind of wild in those days. Anyway, after that, Lou went off on his own. Herbie went off on his own. He kept playing with that trumpet. And we used to think, man, you're not going to make any money playing that trumpet. And it shows how much we knew.
Well, and then he had the Tijuana Brass.
Yeah, he became the man. I mean, and they got A&M Records became a major company.
Yeah.
And so after that, we went, like I said, we went with Bumps Blackwell, and we started another company, and things were going good. But then the Army, I got drafted by the Army. And so when I came out of the Army, at that time, a couple guys who now were Motown's head men, and this is when they started a part of the Motown company out here in Los Angeles, or should I say Hollywood?
Yeah, or as I refer to it as No Town.
Yeah, right. No Town. And they didn't move totally from Detroit, but they started a section of it out here. And so they just as I got out of the service, they asked me would I like to write a song for them. They said there's been 3 or 4 songs. Well, they said there's been 5. It's 10 songs getting ready to get recorded, and they've been advertising it all over the country. And so they said your chances of getting a hit in there would be very slim. And so they said Smokey's going to write 5, Smokey Robinson, and then we got 5 others for whoever. And so when I got out, I called my cousin Gary, and my cousin Gary was one of the best idea men of anybody I'd ever met, except you. And so, yeah, you were even better than he was, but he was good with song ideas. And so we got together, and they said, you only got a week to come up with a song. Your chances of getting a song in here is going to be very slim. Well, what happened was Gary and I got together, and we got 3 out of the 5. And so Barry Gordy said, man, those Pipkin boys are the best new writers that come in my company. And so everything was looking great. And then he said that he's going to give me Marvin Gaye and Mary Wells. And so it was great, except Mary Wells left the company. And so when she did that, everything kind of went sour.
And Marvin Gaye's father shot him.
Yeah. Well, that was before then.
I hope so.
Yeah. Anyway, Marvin and I got to be pretty good friends along through the years.
I like it.
And so after we told him that, and Bumps Blackwell started the group together, and Sam Cooke got his first big hit of what was it? Oh,
You Send Me. Darling,
yeah.
You Send Me, yeah. On RCA Records. It was on Keen to begin with.
Right. And so everything kind of went along at a certain pace. But after everything kind of went kind of haywire with Motown, I called Herbie, and I said, Herbie, your company's starting to become pretty good. Why don't you call me over here, and we'll start making, I'll start writing songs for you. So he said, okay. And he came and got me out of Motown. And I went with Herbie, with A&M for about a couple of years. Like I said, he met a guy named Jerry Moss, who was the M of the A&M, and Alpert and Moss. So anyway, that was really a great time. But at a certain point, in fact, I even scored a movie called Wild Wild Winter, and that was successful. kind of. As those kind of movies are. But anyway, I started traveling around with different groups, and I would score out. By that time, I was arranging music. And so we would travel around the world and do different clubs in different places. But somewhere along the line, the Lord really put it in my heart. He didn't speak to me at that time. But it was very clear. He said, "Go home." And I thought, but we're just about to make all this money, and and it was very clear. He said it again, "Go home." So when we got back to Hollywood, and when I got back to Hollywood, I thought, now where am I going to go? And it was kind of interesting because along that period of time, I met you. And you said, we kind of hit it off as good friends, and you hired me at the company you had, and you said, no, I want you to be on the board of directors. So you got to be very close at that point. And so he said, you just mainly flow with me, whatever the board of directors needs to be. And so that's how we started our business. And then there were a few other reasons, and the thing kind of broke up. And then when I started a company called Christmas, Merry Christmas. Christmas Incorporated. You were the president, I was the vice president.
Did I give myself the big title? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, you deserved it. And so we came up with this thing called where we would, the beginning of the song, we would create the introduction to the radio station. For example, one song went, "Oh Lord, oh baby, and I love you so." And we would say, "Oh baby," and then say, "This is KGFJ." People loved it.
They were over the intros of records, and they were the call letters of the station.
Right. That's how we got to call that. Everybody loved it. It looked like we were getting ready to get very rich with that. But at that point, the Lord actually spoke to me, and one night, well, before that, we ended up getting the same building that A&M had on Sunset Boulevard, and they had moved and gotten this building on La Brea, and so where they still are or were until they sold it. And so anyway, we started our business there, and then one night, I was there by myself. Everybody had gone home. It was about 11:30 at night. And I was just sitting there writing some reports or something. And anyway, the Lord spoke to me and said, "Chester, come out from the unclean and be not like him." He wasn't necessarily talking about the business. He was talking about just Hollywood, period. And so he said, "Come out from the unclean and be not like him. There's a work I've called you to." And so I said, "Lord, you want me to leave now and everything is going good?" I said, "Come out from the unclean and be not like them. There's a work I've called you to." His exact words. And so after a couple of months, I put a lot of things to the test. And I said, "You got to prove it to me that this is you." And everything happened that I asked him to do, even more so. And so after a certain point, I knew for sure that the Lord wanted me to come out from the thing I was supposed to, the business that we were doing.
I want to stop you for a minute. You realize, there's a group of Christian kids behind me here. So this is not anything that is unknown to them or the gospel. It's the gospel. But Peter and the apostles were fishermen. And
right.
Jesus was in Galilee, and he was starting to perform some miracles. Right. And they got excited because they're local, and they had this little fishing fleet. They go out and fill the net and come back and sell the fish. And Jesus started to draw a crowd. So then Jesus said, okay, after he walked on water, and he was doing all kinds of really unusual things that were incomparable. No one could figure it out, and the crowd was following him.
Right.
And they came to Galilee by the throngs. It was like Woodstock. So Jesus said, okay, now we're going to go to the apostles. And Peter said, go where? He said, well, we're going to be fishermen among men. We're going to leave here. We're going to go and do something. And Peter said, whoa, Lord, we're selling T-shirts. We got the cups. You know, we got concerts lined up. What are you talking about? This is not, we don't leave now.
Right.
I'll tell you when we're going to leave. So that you reminded me of that because you were at the top of your game. You were. I mean, we weren't making the money, but we were there. We were the #1 producers in Hollywood at one time.
Yeah.
And what we had, if you recall now, if you jog back, we had MCA, which was the Motion Picture Universal. We had all the Drake stations, RKO stations, and Metro Media Television. So we had TV, the tour, the Universal tour, and we had also radio. So we were rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
And our company was off the ground. But then Chester started to not want to do this anymore.
Yeah, it wasn't so much that, but the Lord made it very clear that he wanted me to come out and he wanted me to go back to school. And I ended up going to he said, I want you to go to Pepperdine. And I really didn't want to go back to school, but he made it very clear that's what he wanted me to do. So I ended up going back to Pepperdine. And
at the South Central campus or the one in Malibu?
First the South Central campus.
Okay.
Well, I started there, but then I got my bachelor's there, but then I ended up getting at the other campus. I ended up getting my master's, and from there I started another. I went to another.
That's a rich man's school,
huh?
Chester. That's a rich man's school.
Yeah, it was, and we had to catch the bus up there every. Oh, actually, a friend of mine, he ended up getting a car, and we rode up there and every day. And we had to do all the, things that you do at school. And I got elected to who's who among college students in university.
Yeah.
So because of that, a lot of things opened up. And then they decided we're moving away from down here on Vermont Boulevard is where it was. And so they said they're moving up to Malibu. And we said we'd like to use the campus, and they worked it out for us, and they said, okay, we're going to sell you the campus for $5. I said, $5? They said, yeah, but you're going to have to end up bringing all the money it takes to keep it going, and it's going to be almost $250,000 just to run the thing. And so we said, that's going to be quite a job. But just about that time, there was a pastor named Fred Price, and he brought them $5 million. And he was on television, and he had a great ministry. He was a very powerful speaker. Right. Yeah. And so they said, well, we got to go with him. He gave us $5 million, and so you have to do something else. But at first they wanted us to have the campus because we were alumni. But Fred got the campus, and we went and did other things.
Now, was there a church you were tied into in Virginia? Was that a church in Virginia?
They're inside a patio.
Say that again.
Was there a church you were tied into in Virginia?
No, not at that time. Pretty soon we met. Well, my wife was from Virginia, and she and her sister went back to visit one day, and I went with them. And so I met I went to the church that they used to go to, a Baptist church, and they said, "Would you like to preach here?" So I said, "Okay, I'll do it." And when I did that, there was a bunch of kids there, and they said, "God already told us this year we were going to start our own campus ministry," and they said, "You're going to be the one." I said, "No way! I'm in Los Angeles, and that's way too far for me to come all the way out here." But it was, as soon as I got in the car to go back to Vonda's house, which was in Manassas, Virginia, the Lord spoke to me on the way there, and He said, "Chester, I have some more for you to do, and I do want you to come back to VCU campus and start the campus ministry there." So that's how we started. And the next thing you know, some of the kids lived in Lynchburg, Virginia, and so they wanted a campus outreach there too. So I ended up going those two places. I ended up coming back home, and then some people at Stanford wanted me to help start there. And then some people from Chicago came down, and they wanted campus. Next thing you knew, we were spread all over the place. And so that's how we got going as a ministry that spread around the country. And along that time, they still let us use the campus because Fred Price hadn't moved into the campus yet. And so
tell us what you were putting on in the campus, who you had in there. That's exciting.
Yeah, well, it was cool, but it eventually moved over to where the Fred Price started getting in charge of it. And so in the meantime, we were using the campus for our own. And then I met this, when my wife and I got married, and you were in the wedding.
Yeah.
And so we had our wedding there on the grounds, campus grounds. And we had a lot of things on the grounds there.
Yeah, you had 10 bridesmaids.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the biggest groom and bridesmaid assembly I ever saw. I thought.
Yeah, that was pretty wild, wasn't it?
Yeah, most people play a record of Lionel Richie. They don't have him come along and sing.
Well, what happened was, some of the people in the ministry, they wanted to be in the wedding too. So we had a whole great big backyard thing.
Oh,
it was great. So,
but the people you were putting on campus, they were homeless or needing shelter at that time.
They were college students, almost all of them.
Okay.
Everybody was a campus university student. So you had some smart cookies in that. And so the ministry just spread like wildfire. And I was the first campus leader like that was African American. And so I met a few other people, and we met the largest campus ministry in the country right now, met them, and I met the second largest. And for some reason, they took a liking to me. And so we started operating with them. And we still are doing some things together. We're trying to fight, the government. And, they're trying to push it out of the way and not give us, the right that we do as a campus ministry. But it turned out to be pretty good. And, I visited you quite a bit, and you were up in Palos Verdes, and I came up there a few times, and, I even brought some of the kids there.
And we had dinner together. We also did some stuff in Hartford.
Yeah.
We recorded. We did some recording in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that was around the time of Gamble and Huff. You were very tempted to stay in the music business, but you got out of it. You didn't want to make that your profession, I guess, anymore.
Yeah, 'cause you had Holland Dozier and then Gamble and Huff, and they were doing great. And I thought, said, hey, I could do that too. But but the Lord said no. And so I ended up doing just starting the campus ministries. And
You
that's
have a
how,
lot of you've had a lot of meetings with the Lord. You know,
yeah.
are you texting? You're not texting the Lord. All right? I mean,
No,
you got a direct connection. The rest of us are waiting.
the Lord would speak to me directly sometimes.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think God doesn't do that. And I used to think that was trippy. I said, because he speaks to me all the time. But what's the matter with you guys? but he did a lot of things. One time I was sitting here in my room and an angel came in and he said, you have a meeting with the Most High. And I said, where? And he said, I'm going to take you there. And he grabbed me and we shot up. I still don't know how we didn't hit the ceiling as we went up, but so
is this true? You realize how this sounds to people? They think now that
weird.
Yeah, that that an angel came and took you up to heaven for a meeting.
Yeah,
I mean,
and we went somewhere. I'm not even sure where we were. It was some kind of place, and it looks like a desert area, but there were these great big white boulders, and the angel started to take it off, and I said, "Hey, wait a minute!" And I said, "What am I supposed to do?" And he said, "You have a meeting with the Most High. He'll call you when he's ready." And the angel took off. So then this barbed wire thing started rolling towards me, and it would kick up the dust, and so you couldn't see inside of it, but you could hear all these songs and praise and things like that going on, speaking in tongues. All that was going on. And so it got to a certain point, and I got a little nervous. I kind of hid behind the rock, the big boulder. And so, but then the Lord said, Chester, come over here. I want to speak with you. And so I went over there. And then the first thing he said, which was quite interesting, he said, you're just a speck. He said, I can smash you. And I said, oh. And then he said it the second time. He said, look, you can't go over me. You can't get under me. You can't get around me. He said, you're just a speck. I can just smash you. And after the third time he said that, for some reason I got bold. And I said, no, Lord, you can't do that. I'm your son. And yeah, that would be unrighteous. And you can't do unrighteous. And I felt this joy kind of pass through his chest. And he said, yes, you're right. You are my son. And so since you are my son, act like it. And the next thing I knew, I was back in the room here. Now, when the angel took me, it was super fast and things were passing by, boop, 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 like that. But when the Lord sent me back, I didn't feel anything. It just, boom, I was back in my room. It was quite interesting. So that's how things got really tight. And then the Lord, I met a guy named Kenneth Hagin. He was a prophet. And he kind of took a liking to me. And so he would tell me a lot of things I needed to do as a man of God. And so that's how I got really wise in some of the things I was doing. And by the time you had left and gotten married, you had a baby, I think.
Yeah.
And I didn't see you for a while. But
well, my idea of the Most High was my mother-in-law.
Yeah. Right.
I had a meeting with her.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yes.
I bet. So anyway, that's how we got started. And right now we're all over the country. We're at 17 outreach in 13 cities in 7 states.
Wow.
And so that's how we're operating now. And God is using us in his own way. We're not what you call a super large company, and as far as the people, but he spread us out, and we have a certain amount in every city that we're in, and that's the way God has wanted it. And he said, I have enough mega churches. That's what he said to me. I have enough mega churches. I don't need another one. I have a different plan for you. And so I said, okay.
How's your music program? How's the music going in the churches?
Oh, the music is great. You know what's funny? I think because it was in me, all the people who came in the ministry, there were just loads of people who had musical talent. And it was like that all over the place. It wasn't anything I tried to do, but several people came and they all had this musical talent. And it's like when we had the Zoom, as we do the ministry on Saturdays now, we had different ones doing doing the music in it, and they still do it very well. You couldn't tell as much because we weren't real adept at how you make that Zoom thing work and the music with it. But if you were to go to any of the churches that we had or any of the places, ministry rooms that we had, the music was always good.
Yeah.
So that it was something God, he said, well, he didn't say this, but it was kind of like, well, you didn't get to say in the music, but I've got a whole lot of people who are working with you and they're going to have the music talent. So that's how that kind of worked. And we still do it that way.
Well, you have the greatest ear. I mean, you do that just naturally. That's a natural talent of yours. And I always knew that about you. And of course, every time you performed, it was the best. Did you attract anybody to the church in the music industry?
There's a lot of people who came around me, but they didn't stay. I remember one time we had a meeting with Martha Reeves and the Vandellas. Of the Vandellas, and we had a guy named oh boy, I can't even think of his name now. He wrote a big hit called "Express Yourself." Express yourself, doom, 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 and that became a pretty big hit. And he would come over, different ones, and different people in the ministry would come by, and they said, "Chester Pipkin, we remember you because you were doing this and that," and they come by and say, "We want to see what you're doing now." And so, but none of them stayed there. They all came and visited. But we got lots of kids from campus ministries, and they were all college campus people, and they were very bright kids. Some of them were doing very good things. Like there's one girl who just got back from Pakistan. And she was sent by the government to do some kind of business in Pakistan. And one of the girls in Japan, she was still doing different things. And she calls us now when we have the service on Saturday and on the Zoom thing. And so, and then one of the guys, he's in the military and he's in Germany, and he calls. So we've got, and then of course they invite other people, and so God is using that. But it wasn't just the music. It's just he said he had a lot of churches and a lot of purposes for other people, but he has something special he wants us to do. I still don't know what it is, but he said just before the rapture of the church, the rapture means he's going to take the people in the Lord out of here, and we all get drafted up to heaven, you might say. And so just before the rapture of the church takes place, then a lot of things are going to happen. Now, to show you that we're getting close to that, the Lord himself, or I don't know whether it was the Holy Spirit or whether it was Jesus, but they would they came to my room at least 5 times. And said, the rapture is close. It's closer than you think. Get yourself ready. And then they turn around and walk away. And that's happened, like I said, those 5 times. And I thought, there must be some kind of reason why he's done that. So he expects something to take place. And he said, just before the rapture takes place, you guys are going to come into your glory. So that hasn't happened yet. So that's where we are now.
I'm a beginner. I'm just brushing my teeth and saying my prayers. But you wanted to get away from me because I was still drinking and drugging and all that stuff, and you said you got to change.
Yeah, because I was getting self-righteous then. I was calling myself going to help you get straight.
But you were right, and I've been sober now 40 years. So
how about that?
It's about the time that you left me, I left me. But it's great. It's great, Chester. You're a wonderful man and also very talented. And I love what we've done together. I think we did some great things together, and now you're doing greater things, which is even more. Yeah, it's a celebration of your talent and your great. I would say faithfulness.
Yeah.
You have character, you have charm, you have faith, and you have a good family too. So
yeah,
your family is everybody now.
It was
everybody, all the believers.
Yeah, well, it was a real task for me because I loved the music. I wanted to be back in music, and the Lord's like, "No, you're going to be a preacher." And I never thought that would be what He wanted. I never thought I'd be a preacher. So, but God still has me in contact with different people, and all the ministry around the country. We're reaching people.
And you always have someone else preach also. You do that often. There was music background here earlier before we started from the kids who were in the back. And it was Christian music because they're church people, and the Christian music has become very contemporary. It's very pop, some of it, and then there's the traditional hymns, but this is the hymns and the haws.
Mm-hmm.
So as I'm listening to this music, I asked him to please turn it down while I did the interview. I said, I'm going to be talking to a minister. And the music's not loud enough for us to hear it, and it's a distraction to not be heard. So anyway, I wanted to have this time with you because I think it's an interesting story, and you're a man who has been very humble and never got celebrated. And I happen to know you, so I said I got to put Chester on the spotlight here.
Yeah. Well, I had my thoughts. I said, I got to reach you and make sure you're saved so when the Lord calls us all out of here, you're going to be with us. So that was in my thoughts all the time.
Thank you, Chester.
And when you got in touch with me really recently, I was really happy to hear that you were still hanging around, and you remember that.
I got 4 grandchildren that are hanging around. They're waiting for my will.
Oh. Well, who knows? We might all be in heaven before that happens.
That's God's will. That's not my will.
Yeah. I understand.
So Chester Pipkin. Now, how do we hear more about you? Do we have a website?
Yeah. Well, we have you call it ReJOYce, ReJOYce with a WCE. And if you dial for ReJOYce in Jesus, you can get in touch with us.
There's a cafe at the end of the street here. It's called ReJOYce, but they spell it differently. And the guy, I go there every day, get my lunch because it's the only time I can. We're locked down, so I go out for a walk. I wear my mask. I go in, order the food, and they opened the church. They're from South America. Yeah, and they're just really very faithful. They got a Bible study thing on Wednesday nights after they close. They also have pamphlets, and their church is they're not open on Sunday. You have Saturday, but they're not open on Sunday. So and I want to ask you one last question here. How this is off the path. I was thinking about it. Little Richard became a Seventh-day Adventist when I first met him. Now that's a very strict religion, I think.
Yeah,
I think of course you don't smoke and you don't drink, but that's common. But I think they have also dietary things, and I don't know much about the religion. But did you know him when he was going through that?
Yeah, there were several times he would all of a sudden repent and he wanted to be a Christian. And one time he had a handful of diamonds and he just threw them in the river. He said, I'm giving it all up because I'm going to become a real Christian. But then he wouldn't stay there and he would end up going back into the business and to the world. but then he would end up going back to the church thing again, and then he would go back to the world. He kept going back and forth, which was quite interesting. But we just said we're going to pray for him and hope he's going to make it. And I don't know, maybe he did. I haven't seen him for quite a while, quite a few years, but I understand he just died recently.
Yeah. So the Seventh-day Adventists, would you consider that to be a cult religion, or are all of these paths acceptable? How do you feel about that?
Seventh-day Adventists, a lot of people have disagreement with their doctrine. They are Christians. I know some people want to say, oh, they aren't even Christians, but they are. They do love the Lord, but there are some things about them that everybody's not in agreement with. But if that's where Little Richard wanted to go, they probably reached out to him and got him to come over there. I don't know if he ended up there. Was he, when he died, I don't know if he was still going to that church, but he was a Christian. He was going somewhere. And, or at least he said he was a Christian. He turned to the Lord, and it was constantly plaguing him, you might say. Yeah. And he would always say, I want to get back with the Lord. And then he'd go back into the business, and then he'd go back, and now I'm turning back to the Lord. And this went on back and forth for years.
He had a whole lot of shaking going on.
Yeah. He sure did. He wop bop-a-doo bop-a-lam bamboo.
Well, Chester, give your love to everybody like you do, but specifically to your wife. Tell her I was asking about her.
She told me to tell you hello. She wanted to say hi to you, but we didn't get a chance. Maybe I'll have her call you one day.
Oh, please do. You guys are great. I love you so much. And thank you for spending this time today.
It's been great, man.
I know you're busy. And I'll see you at the home office when you get called back.
Okay.
You better have a good report. You better.
Yeah. I better have.
I always say, let a smile be your umbrella, but don't get a mouthful of rain.